Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you the Pick a Stick Challenge for February 2019. This is the Art Journal Page Challenge. We also offer a Artist Trading Card Challenge. This challenge is drawn with random sticks and uses one-word prompts. You need to go do the first 6 prompts in order. You also have 2 colors to use, and then there are 2 wildcards that you can replace a step if you don't like it. So I have the little printout from the challenge for February, and it is February 1st today, so hi everyone. Welcome to February. The first prompt for this month was knife, and I was trying to decide, should I use a palette knife or should I use a craft knife? Should I use a butter knife? Should I use a switchblade knife? Well, I decided craft knife, so I got out a X-Acto and a cutting mat. And then I had been thinking about my journal. It's getting really fat and there's still quite a few pages left. And I was thinking that I should maybe glue a couple pages together or else take some out to kind of reduce the weight and thickness of the book, because it's, it won't close anymore. It's getting all distorted already and it's not even all the way full. So I had this page which had some leftover paint on it in the back of the book, and it had the fuchsia and the amber colors that were being called for this challenge. And it's February, and I thought that it would be nice to do something with a heart, because this is really the month that you can, if you love hearts, if you love hearts, Valentine's and things like that, this is the month. So I decided to just go ahead and use the knife to cut through the page and then incorporate the page behind it as part of the design and then glue them both together. And so that saves me just a teeny tiny bit of space in the book by having those 2 pages glued together. Also, the back of this page had some leftover paint on it as well, and it wasn't as pleasing of colors. So I thought that it might be harder to use that side anyway. So I cut a waving line down the edge, and then I cut a heart out of the page using the knife and the mat. And then I trimmed down that cutout piece so that now I would have a border. And then I took another piece of cardboard from some packaging and made a smaller heart. So I have kind of a stacked heart, Valentine type of look in the center of my page. Pretty happy with that. The next step was sand. Now, I could have used actual sand or something that has a sandy texture like a texture medium, or I could have used a sand color. In this case, I wanted to use actual sanding, so I got a sanding block out and some stencils. This stencil is, well, these 2 stencils that I used the first time. They're Stencilgirl stencils, and they are the January club. There's a stencil club that I belong to where you get 3 stencils each month and some videos and things like that. So those first 2 stencils are from that, and then this is another Stencilgirl stencil that I've had for a while, the Circle stencil, which I really love. So I'm just taking some magazine. These are from like ads from magazines, and basically I'm just looking for color. I want to use a contrasting color to the pinks and yellows and oranges that I have on that page. So I come up with like blue being a good contrasting color to those colors, and kind of turquoisey blue and Tiffany blue and a little bit of bright blue and dark blue. So I tore out some pages from ads in the magazine, and then I just used the sanding block to sand over the top of the inked paper, and it creates a pattern on the paper, and then you can use that for collage. Something that I had known about but had kind of forgotten about, and then I saw Mary Beth Shaw from Stencilgirl doing it in a video the other day. I don't know where I saw the video from, but I think it was called Dry Stencil Techniques, maybe. I think it was probably just on YouTube. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that. So I remembered it. So then I decided to use these pieces, and of course, I'm doing them on the page underneath the page that I'm working on. So I've kind of traced around my shapes. I don't need to collage the whole page. I only need to collage the parts that are going to show through the things that I've cut out. So I'm doing that with Liquitex Matte Gel Medium, collaging on these blue patterned papers that I've made using the sanding. And the thing with magazine collage, it always bubbles. It always has creases and bubbles in it. The amount of fluid in the medium is what makes a difference. And I'm using the gel medium, which shouldn't be as wet, but I'm still getting a little bit of creasing and bubbling. So I just use a credit card to smooth it out before it is dried and try to get as much of that out as I can. So that looks pretty cool. I'm liking it. And that was what I did for the Technique Sand. While the paper was wet, I just went ahead and tore it off the edge. It makes kind of a nice fluffy edge on the edge of the page, which is pretty cool. Kind of a decal edge. Making sure everything's glued down, you know, the whole thing. And now I have this contrasting color between the big heart and the next heart, plus then the edge, of course. I'm also doing the same thing, covering over that smaller heart that I made that's going to go in the front. And it's just out of a piece of lightweight tagboard packaging that was in my trash, actually. And I just grabbed it and cut it into the heart shape. So collaging some of those papers onto it as well. Now it's stuck to my deli paper. I had to like peel it off, make sure everything is sealed, and then set it aside to dry so that I can move on to the next thing. So the next thing I wanted to do, well, the next prompt was geometric. So I went and found a stamp set in my collection. This one happens to be from Stampin' Up, but there's stamps like this out there. This one I'm sure is discontinued. Pretty much all my stamps are discontinued because they're from Stampin' Up when I was a demonstrator a long time ago. But this one has a rectangle, a heart, a square and a circle that are solid. And then it has the lines that match. So you can stamp the lines after you have stamped the shape. So it's a two-step stamp is what it's called. And or some people would call it a layering stamp. So I got out some paint, some quinacridone magenta, which is close to fuchsia, some fluorescent pink from Pebeo, and this brand new light rose from Amsterdam that I just got recently. I saw someone using it on their gel plate, and I'm like, I could use that as a light neutral because it's a very pale pink. It's not skin tone, it's pink, but it's just very pale. And while I was at it, I saw that they had a light blue as well, so I bought that one. So they're Amsterdam, which is similar to Liquitex Basics, but it's made in another country. So it's from far away. I bought it on Amazon, so it's not really that far away, is it? So I started by putting some of the paint on my palette and then using a foam brush to just pat, 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 pat it onto the stamp. And that's how you get the stamp inked up with acrylic paint. And then this, of course, acrylic paint's opaque in most cases, except for, you know, like yellow. Yellow's never opaque. But I can stamp the geometric shapes, starting with the rectangle, then the square, then I did the circle in the fluorescent, all over this front page. And I have a piece of paper in between, a piece of dirty deli paper in between the front page and the back page so that I don't get any of this paint onto the blue areas that will eventually be incorporated into my design. So then I also had some, the second color in the challenge is amber. And I had this color called yellow ochre, which to me is as close as I can think about amber. I don't have a paint named Amber. I don't even have any friends named Amber. I do know someone named Amber, but she's a friend of my son, so not really a friend of mine. But anyway, I digress. This is what happens. Just don't derail my train of thought. Okay, so I stamped smaller circles in what I consider amber color, which is this yellow ochre. Then once all that was dry, I went ahead and got out a Memento black ink pad, Tuxedo Black, which is a permanent ink. Yeah, so it doesn't run or fade, or, you know, if you get it wet, it doesn't turn into slimy gray. And I stamped around all those shapes with the coordinating second step or layering stamp in the set. And that just makes black lines around the shapes. And then there's also a little stamp in there that has 3 little solid squares on it. And I use that one here and there as well to build up my design. I think this turned out pretty cool. This page is busy, but it is what I needed on this day when the sky is gray and the colors are off, and I just needed some bright, colorful therapy today. So then once I was done with all of that stamping, then I went ahead and used an artist sponge and the ink to go around the edges of the page and the inside edge of the heart so that I don't have a white edge showing. I hate it when white edges show. It's just not cool to me at all. So made sure that that was all sponged up. So I'm starting to like my design now. I've got some interesting stuff going on. The next prompt was stencil. Yay! So I got back out the same stencil, which is the club stencil from January, Stencilgirl Club, and some of that light blue paint from Amsterdam, and then some brilliant blue type paint from Liquitex Basics. What is it? Cobalt blue? I don't know. Anyway, all the products I used with the links to where I purchased them will be in the description box below the video. If you go down there, it says show more. If you click that, there's all kinds of links and things that you can look at down there to take you to places that you may have never been. If you use my Amazon links, I am an affiliate. I get a few cents with your purchase because you went to Amazon through my video. Doesn't matter if you purchase the things that I am showing or if you purchase something else, as long as you used my link. So that is always helpful for me to buy new products to show on my channel. Of course, Creativation just happened. All the new products are coming out in the next couple months, and I will need to get some of those. If you don't want to buy something from Amazon, you can just use my donation link down there as well. And yeah, that helps me out, helps out my channel since I'm making free videos. So I use that stencil and those 2 color blues to go over the heart, the blue heart shape in the background, the edge, and then also the smaller blue heart that I had cut out. Made them all interesting and cool. So the next prompt was tissue. And I had this piece of tissue paper. This is just regular old tissue paper like you would find inside a shirt, you know, wrapping up a shirt or something. It's just plain old tissue paper. And at some point in the past, I stamped a bunch of hearts on it from different stamp sets that I have. These have all been stamped in archival ink. So it's permanent ink. You can use them with wet media. It's not a problem. So I cut some of those out using a water tank brush by just drawing around them with the water. It makes it very easy to tear it apart. And some of them are stamped in black. Some of them are stamped in magenta type color, which is my, again, nod to the fuchsia. And I use these as collage bits for adding some more pattern and texture to my page. So the little heart that I cut out from inside, I'm going to collage some of these onto there. This time I'm using Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium. This is good for doing lightweight stuff like tissue paper, napkins, stuff like that. And it works pretty well for that. I do have some napkin decoupage from DecoArt, which I could have used as well. But I'm just adding this pattern and shape to this little heart. I fold around the edges to the back instead of just cutting them off because I didn't want to wait for it to dry. Then I also have this stamped word that says love, and I want to collage that onto my most uppermost heart, but I know that it's just going to blend into the dark background. So I use a little bit of that leftover light pink paint and just paint across it before I collage that word on so that it shows up, because tissue paper is completely disappears when you get it wet. It just kind of disappears into the background. So that worked out pretty well. I think it looks pretty neat. I went and got some foam squares, you know, to do pop-up type things with paper crafting, and I put those on the back, peeled them off, and then stuck that heart on top of the other heart. So now it's kind of dimensional. It sticks up a little bit, but inside a journal it'll be, you know, folded flat, and then it won't really affect much about what's going on the page as far as the thickness. It's not that big a deal. So the next prompt was elephant, and there just was not anywhere that I was going to be able to put an elephant on this page at this point. I couldn't imagine it, so I switched that out for a wild card, which is scribble. So I'm taking some of that leftover paint and kind of doing some unification or blending with my fingers around some of this background. And while I'm doing that, I'm taking a skewer, a bamboo skewer, and just scribbling in the paint. And it just gives it a little bit of texture. And I always like it. I just think that my scribbles, I don't know, my scribbles just aren't as nice as some other people's scribbles. I think the master scribbler is Red Queen Art Creations, which I shouted out a week ago or something. She does the best scribbling. I'm not good at scribbling. But anyway, I did it. So then I also used some of the, I did some unification and actually blending, which is another one of the wild cards. I guess I could have said I used that one too, with the fluorescent paint all around my smaller heart with a little bit of scribbling too. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. Add a little bit of the pink to the circle on the love where there's a heart. And yeah, I've pretty much completed all the steps, so now it's just finishing that is left for this challenge. I am going to add a few more of these pink tissue hearts to my background, so I do that with the Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium in some of the lighter areas of the page so that there's some more hearts on there along with my geometric shapes. And it's very simple to glue these down with just, you know, put a dot of that medium on there, brush it down with your glue brush, call it good. This is definitely a Valentine-y type of a page, but it's really just more about love, all forms of love, not just romantic love, but love of your friends, love of your family, and of course, love of yourself. Something that a lot of us forget to do. Including myself. I'm very bad about it. So I decided that that's what my page is about more than, you know, lovey-dovey, kissy-huggy type stuff. And I go ahead and glue the top page to the bottom page so that they're now one composition. And then I glue in my other heart, all using Aleene's tacky glue just to get that all stuck together. And then I get out my white Posca pen to do some details, you know, like I always do. I don't do a lot of pages without the white Posca pen. So I'm kind of adding some highlights around the different hearts, writing around the word to try to make it stand out a little bit. It almost seems like it was stamped in black, but it's quite faded. So it almost seems like it was stamped in gray. I splatter with my pen as well, and then also with some of that leftover bright blue paint. I get out a Tim Holtz word from the big chat that says yourself, so now the page says love yourself, which was the message I intended. And then I continue to do more detail work with the pens. This one is a large pen from Sharpie. It is the water-based non-stinky pen. I don't have any smaller ones except for metallics, but I do have this one large sized one, which I got a while back. More with the white, more with the black. I just keep, going back and forth for some finishing. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. I hope that you guys are all participating in the challenge. If you haven't started participating yet, come on over and join the Facebook group. The link will be in the description box below. Make sure that when you ask to join that you answer the questions, because that's very important so that we know that we're not getting a bunch of people who are going to spam the group. We want serious people. So January has been a great month for the Pick a Stick Challenge. Tons of people participated. There's lots of beautiful art to see in the group. So you can come on over there and join if you want to. Also, you can watch my friend Peg's video in the description box below. The link will be there as well. That's it for me. Bye-bye.